Hello, everybody. Happy Friday. Hope that it is fabulous for all of you. Today's guests are Orna and Matthew Walters. They are world-renowned dating coaches and founders of Creating Love on Purpose with a holistic approach to transforming hidden blocks to love, and the authors of Getting It Right This Time, Break Free from Your Hidden Blocks to Lasting Love. Orna and Matthew have been featured on countless television, radio, and print outlets, including NBC, Fox News, MSN, USA Networks, KPFK Radio, and with Les Brown on CBS Radio, and featured as guest experts on Bravo's The Millionaire Matchmaker. They have helped thousands of singles around the globe bring in a beloved life partner. Orna and Matthew are dedicated to spreading the message that having love is an inside job and that it's never too late to find the love of your life. I will make sure to put all of their links in the show notes. I had a very good time. They have really fun personalities, and I just imagine that their life is so fun. But I had a really good time with them, and I love when people send me bios because then I don't have to try to remember all the details and whatever. But I think they say this in the episode. Listen, I ain't gonna lie about you. Didn't edit this shit one bit because I just am too wrapped up this week. But you can also find them at www.loveonpurpose.com. And Getting It Right This Time is available at your favorite retail everywhere books are sold. So, I don't know. I think I'm going to leave it at that. Again, we had such a good conversation. You're going to love it. They are so much fun. So, without further ado, here's me with Orna and Matthew. Emotionally unavailable. Hi, guys.
Hi.
Well, hello.
How are you?
We're great. How are you?
Good. This is the first time since episode 3 that I've had a couple on. So I'm so excited about this. I was looking at your website, and I have to tell you that the name of your book just hits me so hard because audience, it's called Getting It Right This Time. But because I'm on my second marriage, and I remember, well, in the early days when I was trying to hook them in, I was like, well, let me go see, all the areas where I'm a little bit psycho and try to dim those down a little bit. But I just remember being like, I'm one of those people who overtakes responsibility for every scenario. So I was like, oh, I can't not get it right this time. So I love the title of this book because this is what we're all thinking if we are doing this again. You know what I mean? So I'm really excited about this.
Well,
but I do have a question for you guys about your whole program. Did this start because you all had trouble in this relationship and you guys had a common goal and you worked toward that? Is that?
No, actually, we mostly, the book is for anybody single. Our Creating Love on Purpose is actually, we work with singles who want love.
I love that.
So we didn't get together till after 40. And we say one of our qualifications for helping people in this area is that between the two of us, we pretty much made every mistake you can make. And so we did a lot of soul searching and looking at how we can do things differently when it comes to selecting a life partner instead of just waiting it to, magically happen one day, meet cute at Starbucks or whatever. So
right.
We sort of got all of our inner stuff in alignment and then connected with each other. And do you want to say anything else about that?
Well, I think it might be helpful to hear just the super short versions of our stories. So I'm 22 years sober.
Okay.
And that was a big part of, me finally finding love.
Yeah, the work you had to do. Yeah.
The work I had to do. Right. So that was part of my journey. And it's interesting that you call your podcast Emotionally Unavailable because I was the emotionally unavailable guy.
Yeah. Yeah, I resonate with that for sure. But honestly, I believe that we all are until you get intentional and until you learn how to experiencing a feeling comes natural to no one. So when I learned how to not intellectualize every single experience and actually learn how to feel the feelings along with it, then my whole life changed. But I actually am so in love with the fact that your program is for singles, because I was a little like nervous with the phrase finding love again or something, because I'm like, yeah, but I have this fundamental belief that love is only the love you have for yourself shared with others. And now I already can tell that's the whole thing here.
Yeah,
So that's so exciting. Yeah.
In other words, this book is not a dating book. This book is about how this is actually our 4th interview this week. So,
oh, really?
Yeah, with the book, we've got a lot of, it's great. We're super excited. And so we've said it over and over again. This book literally, it allows you to have a better relationship with yourself, because the most important relationship you're ever going to have is that one with yourself. And so it's unrealistic to think that somebody outside of you is going to show up and treat you differently than you treat yourself. And so we hear all the time, the conventional wisdom, right? Our friends and family, you're going on a date or whatever. Oh, just be yourself. And we're like, we don't even know what that means.
Yeah, it was myself.
Right? So there's all kinds of stuff in here about stepping into your authenticity and what that means, and identifying your feelings versus a thought, right?
Mm-hmm.
And because what do we want when we connect with a beloved, right? We want that emotional connection. So if you're disconnected from yourself, you can't then connect with another person. Right. And what we've discovered is the magic of intimacy is that being authentic and speaking how you feel, that's what authenticity means. Authenticity doesn't mean you're sharing your opinion about something. Authenticity means I'm feeling X and I'm sharing that with you.
In real time.
Real time.
Yeah.
You gotta work towards that. Maybe you're not good at it in real time.
I'm still not great at it.
People through step by step on how to do that. So when one person is authentic, which is a high vibration, now you get to see the other person's capacity. Are they able to meet you
and then hold your feelings? Yeah.
The thing is, our ego desire is totally different, right? We get stuck on who's right, who's wrong, especially in conflict. And your heart doesn't care about any of those things.
Right.
I think we watched some of your past episodes, so I think I can curse. So I can curse.
Oh, yeah, please do. Because I'm gonna.
Your heart does not give a shit.
Yeah.
Right. Your heart doesn't. But what your heart wants is that emotional connection with your beloved partner. So when one person is authentic and the other person meets you at that level of authenticity, the magic of intimacy is that's not about agreement. That's just about each person being willing to be authentic and speak their truth. And now you're emotionally connected with the other person. And that's what really matters to your heart.
Absolutely. Gosh. And I guess this is where I'm like, yeah, I've determined that my biggest lesson that I'm supposed to learn on this earth is this, because I've gone my entire life begging for love and not even realizing. I mean, 2 years ago, I was over here like, no, you got to love yourself. I love myself, and not even realizing all the sneaky ways that self-hatred was popping up in my life. And we're so deeply ingrained with these narratives that drive us forward in the worst way possible, both within and without. And I was just struggling all the time to feel seen. And I'm just so glad that I love connecting with people on this mission, first of all, but it's also so like healing for me to have these conversations, because any confirmation that I can get that like I'm on the right path is always like really, I have a lot of gratitude for that, because I do feel fundamentally supported by the universe or whatever people want to call it. But sometimes, that little kid in you that's like, can you check my work real quick? Like sometimes I feel that way. But yeah, I'd say to people all the time, like, you cannot go be in a healthy relationship even if you are just like this high vibe person. Anyone that you're around that's reflecting back a lower vibe version of you is just going to pull you down into that. And also maybe you're not vibing as high as you think, like it is sneaky, all of the ways that we can feel insecure and not realize that's what it is. And even just yesterday with my husband, this was an all day evolution for me. Okay. And really, I probably would have chosen to behave stupid if it wasn't a full moon lunar eclipse, and I was like, no, we're supposed to be learning shit. So let's be chill. I was having, it was like first day period problems, but I was like, I just felt mad. And I was like, that's not real. Like, nothing's been taken from you without your consent. Like, what are you doing? And all day I was rethinking on this one particular thing, which was nothing. And I knew it was nothing. And I was like, I don't really even feel anything. I'm annoyed, and I'm allowing this annoyance to go into, to become something bigger than it really was. All because of like period stuff and overthinking. And so by the end of the day, I was like, oh, I think maybe this is another area where I didn't feel enough. And so I had to like make it something else, because then someone else can be meeting my need instead of me figuring out what I'm actually like feeling and meeting my own need. So how much, like, do you guys like actually in this program, do you like coach the people? Is that what you're doing?
Yeah, that's what our business is.
Yeah. Okay. That's what I thought.
Yes.
I mean, we have private coaching. We have different ways for people to work in different group settings together. I mean, we did a lot of more in-person stuff pre-COVID. Obviously, we haven't gotten back to a lot of that in person, but so there's a number of different ways for people to work with us. But essentially, we are a coaching business, and I had my own business as a manifestation coach, and Matthew had his hypnotherapy practice, where he's
right on,
neuro-linguistic programming and therapeutic imagery.
Mm-hmm.
And we met at a business networking group. So like, we didn't know we had I mean, there's no other words for me to say, right? We met and then we fell in love, like we man appeal,
Yeah.
But over time, we had this opportunity to speak, and we ended up creating this business together. And one of the things that I think is so funny, that we met at a business networking group and then we ended up creating a business together. But it was something that our individual businesses didn't really take off. But when we started creating Love on Purpose, it was like wildfire. It was like, and we were like, whoa, we're really onto something. Because we kind of used to joke, in the early part, especially after getting engaged and married, it was like, well, I created you. And he'd be like, no, I created you.
Yeah,
like, well, I was very intentional on my path, and I knew, and I think that I think this part of our life, there's so much frustration with it, because from the moment we pop out of the womb, we're sold this ridiculous myth, right? That love is just going to magically happen one day when you meet this mythical right person. And everything else we want in life, we're told to, like, get educated, practice, get skills, you've never had a friend call you, right, Melissa? You've never had a friend call you and say, gosh, I had the worst day. And you're like, oh my gosh, what's wrong? Well, I was at work and I asked for a raise and I didn't get it. So I quit. And now it's a job where I never have to ask for a raise again.
Yeah.
Your friend would have lost her marble, right?
Mm-hmm.
And yet that's what we do in love. It's only in this arena that we're always in reaction to the past. We think that if we're with somebody who, is an addict, we want somebody sober. If somebody's a cheater, we want somebody faithful. We want so much more than the opposite of what we don't want. People are so hung up on spotting the cheaters, and then they wonder why every guy ends up being a cheater. Or or the guys think, oh my gosh, every woman, is like a gold digger, and I have to squirrel my money away or something. It's like this ridiculous ideas from our own pain. And so we really teach our clients to date from their power instead of dating from their pain.
Yes, I love that, because it's just our fear being projected on everyone. I mean, sure, like, there is the whole, like, you attract kind of the mirror version of you. So, I mean, if you're not like doing what you need to do to grow, this is who you're going to attract. But also, if your mind is very focused singularly on any quality, you can see it in anyone, whether it's a positive or negative quality. God knows I was the worst at projecting. Like, I'd be like, no, but they, in one breath, they were the best, right? Like they were so much better than me in every way, but also they were probably a piece of shit because we can't actually trust people. So, it was like this constant push and pull for control and safety. And truly, so we just had our anniversary the other day, on the 10th, and it's been 13 years, our wedding anniversary. And we were just cracking up at a lot of that first couple of years of dating and then like marriage. I have 2 children from my first marriage, and then I have a third with him, and everything that changed because we had gone from kids being gone every other weekend and 2 nights a week. And then we have kids all the time. There's all the changes that our relationship's gone through. But honestly, I have gone through so much changes through all of that. And that I'm kind of the barometer of this entire household. Like that's what I noticed coming out of a mental health crisis was when I got better, everyone around me got better because I guess I'm the hub here. I don't know. But in my relationship, all the focus was on me because I was the loud one. I was crazy. I did some crazy shit. I really did. But he's very quiet and he's, avoidant AF. So like, it can look so sweet, but I'm like, no, you still have lots to grow too. And I have clients that we have these conversations all the time about like, what are you doing to meet your needs? Because that's what's been such a struggle for me is meeting my own needs because of that, like very quiet narrative sometimes that says like, I'm not enough. I'm probably not going to be able to do this on my own.
Well, being conscious in a relationship is the most powerful personal growth workshop you'll ever go through. Because if you really are looking at yourself and saying, what is my stuff in this conflict, in this disagreement? What's my responsibility? And looking at it and owning it. And because you love this person next to you, right? You want to go, I don't want to continue to be that crazy person. I don't want to continue to speak to you that way because I know it's not helpful. And so when you really are conscious in relationship, you can heal those wounds. But let's look at those wounds because that's one of the key points of our work is looking at where do those wounds come from and why are we reenacting them over and over and over again in our relationships?
You have children and when every human comes in the world, this little baby, and we call when you first pop out, you don't have any blocks to love. We come in as the physical embodiment of the energy of love. I think that's why around babies, they are so in the moment, whatever it is that's going on.
Yeah, nothing matters but what they want right then, for sure.
Yeah.
Right. And they shine that spotlight of love on anyone who's around, and they receive love from anyone who's willing to give it. They don't assess like, oh, you, not you.
Yes.
They will receive and give, and there's no blocks. And yet we're all born into this, into a system. We learn very quickly that love is somewhat conditional in some way. And really what we're talking about is the human condition, because we're raised by flawed people who are raised by flawed people who are raised by flawed people. And the way the mind works, our beliefs don't show up like in a moment. Our beliefs happen. It's like there's a seed first. Like our mind says, maybe this is true. And that's the seed. And so we think maybe this is true because our minds are meaning-making machines. And so we go, maybe this is true. And you start looking for evidence all around you for the thing. And because it's whatever you're looking for, you'll find it. And so at some point, there's an event we call it the solidifying event. It's when the seed sprouts.
Yep.
Because suddenly this idea, maybe this is true, this event solidifies it. And that's the thing you're talking about in therapy all the time, right? Is that solidifying event. This must be true about me. Poof. And it starts to grow like something in your garden. And so what we've realized, the way the brain science of attraction works is we're attracted to what is familiar. And so because there's a part of us that wants to continue to heal that wound. And so we're looking for a person that matches the dynamic from childhood. We make this decision about ourselves long before we know who we really are and how the world works.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Like Orna said, the baby comes into the world with no blocks and learns very quickly that love is conditional in this system they're born into. Like I'm the youngest of 5 kids. And so there was a well-established pecking order before I came along. And I had to adapt to that as opposed to adapting to me. And in those moments so you think about it this way, there's the way you desire to be loved.
Yes.
And there's the way your caregivers, your parents are capable of loving you.
Right.
And there's a gap in there.
Yes.
Gap is our wounding story, because what the child does, which we think is really fascinating, because the child doesn't say, well, clearly my parents weren't capable of loving me the way I want to be loved, and so they're the ones that are screwed up. I'm cool, right? Instead, that kid says, what's wrong with me?
I'm fundamentally unlovable.
What's wrong with me that my parents can't love me the way I want them to?
Yeah.
And so we take on a belief that's not true. It's a false belief about ourselves. Yet, like Orna said, that belief takes roots and it really starts to affect the way we see the world around us. Everything becomes evidence reflecting back that belief. We have this wonderful phrase now that's come into to our consciousness in the last few years, confirmation bias.
Yep.
Right? And we usually think about it when we're talking about the news and how people view the world and all that. But confirmation bias plays out in our relationships over and over and over again.
Yeah.
Like you said, if you believe you're unlovable, you're going to choose someone who's incapable of loving you, because that confirms your belief. You use the phrase attracted in. We say it differently. We say you're attracted to what feels familiar. So you're the one seeking out that dynamic on a subconscious level. Not that you really want it, right? Because your brain's
right.
Goodness, I don't want this mess, right? Yet our subconscious mind highlights those people. And the signal goes off in your brain that says, this is familiar, this is familiar, this is familiar. And we confuse that signal with excitement and attraction.
Yeah.
Really, it's a warning.
I know.
Danger, danger, danger.
It could be danger, or it could just be this is familiar, right?
Yeah.
Let's talk about those people that, everybody knows a couple of them, right? It's like love was so easy for them. They met their high school sweethearts, or they met in college. They're like, we got introduced the other day by a colleague and friend on her podcast, and she said, they're constantly like PDA, and there's, Orna and Matthew, their love is so genuine. It's disgusting, right? Like, let's talk about these people where love is easy. It's a little disgusting to the rest of us that struggled for decades, right? Because it's like, they met and everything just seemed hunky-dory. You knew they were going to last forever. They had the kids and the white picket fence and everything, la-di-da-di-da-da, right? And so this thing really like plagued each one of us as single people. Like, wait, why is love easy for some people? And yet I'm sitting here struggling. I mean, I grew up in a house of horrors. I mean, chaos, abuse, toxic. I mean, just awful.
Yeah.
And I was the youngest of 3. I was the only girl with immigrant parents. And quite frankly, as the only girl, I was supposed to just be pretty and keep my mouth shut.
Yeah.
And, pretty is subjective, but you know what? I'll tell you straight up as a fact, I'm not very good at keeping my mouth shut. And so I literally had the shit beat out of me by these grown-up people. So for me, love and pain was intertwined.
Yeah.
So in my 20s, what happened?
That's what you were thinking. Yeah.
Yeah. I ended up picking an abuser, right? So on New Year's Eve, 1994, the boyfriend I lived with tried to kill me.
Oh my God.
And that was the wake-up call of a lifetime. Yeah. And I left, but I know why women stay. I know.
Absolutely. I
know, because there was something in me. I knew I could never speak with him again. It was like if I lived in Alaska and there was snow all around my home, but he came knocking on my door to sell me snow, I would buy it from him, even though I could just get my own free snow right there.
Yeah.
It was just a
That
part of
addictive
me.
nature of those types of relationships
Yeah.
is insane, because you really are just trying to get your fucking parents to love you through these
Right.
relationships.
Exactly. And so it is the hardest pattern to break is that insidious pattern of abuse, trauma, and toxicity.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing is we help people not get through the trauma part of it, but we help people unravel it, whether it's to that extent, right, where the signal is danger, danger, not just familiar, but it works the same way. Like, Matthew's family, like he had this somewhat from the outside appeared like an idyllic childhood.
Mm-hmm.
Growing up on 3.5
My husband's too. Yeah, our dynamics are very similar. Like my husband he was raised in a Mormon home. He was the oldest of 5. And I had a childhood that was like yours, only not immigrants.
Yeah. So, I mean, my parents were married for 57 years until my mom passed. They, and like Orna said, on the outside, all our friends growing up, they all looked at our family and said, wow, you guys are so great. And yet inside the house, everybody, I always say it this way, my family is really good at social alcoholism. They weren't mean drunks. They were happy, but they were unavailable. They were, and they weren't expressing love. They were expressing sarcasm and teasing. Yeah. And being the youngest of 5, I interpreted all that teasing and sarcasm to mean there's something wrong with me. Mm-hmm. And also because I had 3 older brothers and I was always trying to keep up with them. And I was usually the one keeping everybody behind because I wasn't physically as developed as they were. I always thought I was the one screwing everything up. And so when I became an adult and I got into relationships, what did I do? I chased unavailable women because that felt right. When I was in a relationship with a woman who was available, I sabotaged it because that felt right.
Sure.
Right?
Been there. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That's I'm the one who's supposed to screw things up. Right. I always say it this way. When I would meet a woman and she'd be like, wow, you're really cute. I really like you. I'd think, what's wrong with you? The next thought I would have would be, well, wait till you get to know me. We'll see if you still like me.
That was always me. It was like, well, if you knew the real me.
Yeah. If you just knew the real me, you wouldn't like me. Because that's a reflection of not liking yourself.
Yep.
And it really, like, self-acceptance was my journey. It's like learning to like you said, you had a really sort of cranky day yesterday, right? We like to use the word crunchy because it has a lot less judgment in it.
Yeah, yeah.
Right? And like, boy, you're really moody today. Boy, you're really a pill today. No, you're just feeling crunchy today.
Oh, yeah.
All right. That's a good way to say it.
He was super crunchy. And I was just like, you feeling crunchy today? And he was like, and I was like, all right, have fun with that.
That ain't about me, baby.
Because look, it's easy when you first get together with somebody to not take their behavior personal, but it's never personal. I say the key to a successful relationship is to remember that the other person is not you. Easier said than done.
But let me ask you this, because this is like, you're the first people that I've been able to ask this question to since I've been pondering it so much. Okay, so I'm a person who, like I said, will take most of the responsibility, right? Because I'm the one, the self-acceptance, all of the things. I found myself to be at my core unlovable. So clearly everything's my fault. And when I can just work out me, everything's perfect, right? So what do you say to someone who has that type of framework and they are trying to figure out what reasonable expectations from a partner are? Because what I'm seeing, there are the obvious unreasonable where you can work through that. But like, at what point can you help someone understand that maybe you're just not compatible?
Well, there's a lot of parts to your question. So let me break it down. First off, in relationship, you are only responsible for what's on your side of the street. That's it. So, I mean, we live in Los Angeles, so we have these giant freeways here, like the 405,
yes, 405
with the big cement divider and 5 lanes on each side. Pretend it's that cement divider, or better yet, pretend the middle of the street is divided by the Great Wall of China. Okay. Because the first part is not taking responsibility for your partner. You know, the number one problem with the way we think about communication is we tend to judge the success of our own communication by the response we get from the other person.
So true.
It takes it leaves us powerless because the other person isn't us, right? And so there's a different scale by which to evaluate the success of your own communication. And we talked about it early on. It's how authentic you're able to be. How authentic are you able to be? I mean, I remember in my journey, I was in a relationship with a guy, and he said to me, "You're overreacting." And I said, "Where's the meter?" And he was like, his whole face was like, like, wait, you know? And I was like, what do you mean? And like, well, you're saying I'm in the red and I'm saying I'm upset. I'm responding in a way you do not like. That doesn't mean I'm over anything. I'm exactly the appropriate amount of upset for my upset.
Right.
Right? Because I used to be the person that took too much responsibility. And I also felt very much unlovable because the people that raised me also abused me. So, you know, that tracked. So but there was this thing in me where I realized there must be another way to do it.
Yeah.
And so the way to really evaluate a partner is by being able to evaluate their ability to meet your needs. And this is where it gets the most confusing because we talk to people all the time who don't know what they need.
Right.
And instead, they sort of have these overarching things that we all want. And I'm like, those belong on the list. Like somebody who's not a cheater, things within morality, right?
Right.
Faithful, like all of these base level things that are just universal that everybody wants in their relationship. That's not even on your list because that has nothing to do with what makes your person uniquely your person. Like every kind person is not your person, right? Like it made me crazy when I started on my search to figure out how to have a great love relationship. And conventional wisdom says, oh, just pick somebody from a good family. And I was horrified. I was like, fuck that. I love that I can curse. Fuck that. Because nobody's ever going to pick me then because my family is horrific.
Right, exactly. God, I remember those days.
Fuck you telling me look for somebody from a good family. Screw you and the horse you rode in on because then no one is ever picking me. I mean, it literally struck terror in my heart.
I can imagine.
So the things you're looking for, there's a big difference between what you need in relationship and what you want in relationship. Because your wants are negotiable and your needs are not. So you said, what are the expectations? The expectation level is that you make a request. So when you make a request, you see your partner's effort to meet those needs for you. Now, you can't ask somebody to change their behavior. Right? Like some things are going to bug me that don't bug my husband. Like not where we live now, but our first place was a little 1-bedroom apartment. We walk in the door and you're in the living room.
Yeah.
Like, in the apartment. So there's no place like a foyer for a little shoe rack or whatever. And we had a shoe off agreement, right? No shoes in the home, right? We still live that way. And so Matthew's shoes started piling up at the door, right? And I'm like, you know, hello, right? Like,
come get your shoes.
I would make the request, right? Hey, could you put your shoes away? Oh yeah, you know, but they started piling up under his desk that I found later. But there was this thing. It's like I wanted the shoes piled up at the door to bother him the way it bothered me. That you can't ask somebody to change.
Right.
You can't ask somebody because his awareness doesn't have that. Like men kind of.
Oh, I know. Believe me, I know. And it's never going to make sense to me how they don't see it.
Well, I'll tell you something because John Gray, the author of Men Are From Mars, Women From Venus.
Baby, I read it.
Right. We know John well. We've interviewed him many times. We have a really nice, cooperative relationship. And so John says it like this, and I like to give credit where credit is due because I love the way he says it. You have to pretend that men have an efficiency gene. Right? Because women tend to overdo stuff, right? It's like, I'm doing all this stuff and he's not doing anything. And I'm like, well, give him something to do. So here's the thing. leaving the shoes at the door was actually more efficient. It was more in alignment because he then doesn't have to go fetch them out of the closet.
Right.
I mean, I didn't mind if there were 2 or 3 pairs. We usually had 2 or 3 pairs each at the door.
We have this exact shoe problem happening at my house right now, so I get it.
So let me explain. So it's like there are some things you can make a request and see what happens. But there was one day where I was like, what the fuck do I have to do to get this guy to put his shoes away? And suddenly I realized, wait a second. I love this guy, Matthew Walters. I live with him. And the fact that he lives here is evident by his shoes piling up at the door. Says he's honoring the shoe off policy in our home. So he's honoring that overarching thing that is really important actually to both of us. We have had an agreement, no shoes in the home. And he's honoring that agreement. And then I thought, you know what? Because I love this guy, and I don't like the shoes piled up at the door, I get to put his shoes away when I put some of my shoes away. And when I started cleaning up some of my shoes to go back in the closet, I started picking up his shoes and putting them back in the closet. Problem solved.
So I want to go back to the first part of your questions, which is, how do you know? How do you know what's yours and what's your partner's? And Orna used the analogy of the street with the Great Wall of China down it. We have something we call the responsibility equation. And the responsibility equation spells it out really clearly. It goes like this. When someone has a problem with you, it's your problem. It's their problem. I just said it wrong. I just said it backwards.
That's okay.
So when someone has a problem with you, it is their problem. When you have a problem with someone, it is your problem. And what happens,
I like that,
when it's somebody who's wired like you, is you are taking responsibility for other people's problems.
Mm-hmm.
What a lot of people do is they offload the responsibility of their own problems onto other people. We want to stay away from those people. They're no fun to be around because they're not going to take responsibility for anything.
Right.
However, when we take too much responsibility for other people's problems, we think we're responsible for their happiness.
Right.
They're not. They're responsible for their own happiness. We can do things to make them happier, but we can't make them happy.
Nope.
Nothing you can do to make somebody else happy. That is their responsibility. What you can do is you can take responsibility for your own problems. Say, oh, I have a problem with this person. Is it how I'm thinking about the problem? Is it because I'm needing something I'm not getting? Do I need to make a request? Right? You're starting to look at the problem and going, what can I do to solve this problem? But when you see somebody else have a problem, you can have empathy. You can have compassion for them. You can acknowledge their problem. Wow, I see you have a problem. That's really frustrating, I bet. Right? But when you step in and then try to solve it for them, then you're crossing the line. You're on their side of the street, trying to clean up their side of the street. And that's their job, not yours.
So the request piece then follows that other part of it, right? I mean, when we started dating, look, I knew I liked a guy who opened my car door. I'm born and raised in Los Angeles. I got my 16th birthday, obsessed with driving, always. I was counting the days from when I turned 14 until I turned 16. I've been counting.
I love it.
And so I started dating Matthew. I knew he wasn't opening my car door. I knew that I liked that. I thought, okay, well, it's not that big a deal. And then I spent an afternoon, my friend Bill, just platonic friend, really dear friend at the time. And he called me and was like, I need clothes, come dress me. And I was like, okay. So I spent an afternoon shopping with Bill. And for all the years I'd known Bill, he's always opening my car door because that's what Bill did. And I thought to myself, gosh, I really do like this. And maybe I should just ask this Matthew guy that I've been seeing for a couple of weeks. Maybe I'll ask him. So nowhere near the car. I still remember we were up in my apartment and I made a request. I said something, I don't remember exactly, but it was something like, I really feel cherished when a man opens the car door for me. Do you think you can make an effort to open my car door? And literally he sat up straight. He was like,
I was like, what? You like that?
Right? And he was like, oh yeah, sure. I could do that. And I'm like, okay. Now here's the thing. It didn't suddenly become a habit. So there were, obviously we went out that night and he opened my car door, right? But then a couple weeks later, we were like in a rush or whatever, and we're after dinner or whatever. It wasn't a habit yet. He made an effort. And so if he forgot, I would just stand there by the passenger's side, like, right? And he was like, oh, right, like coming around to my side to get the door. And all these years later, he shows up like valets all over LA because he's always getting my door, right?
Yeah.
What this shows early on in dating, if you're making requests like that, and whether it's something small like opening the car door or something bigger and more important to you, you are evaluating the other person's capacity to meet your needs. I didn't have
that was a want.
That was a want.
That was
right?
a wiggle. Yeah.
I didn't have any philosophical issues with opening a woman's car door. I wasn't like, oh no, men and women are equal. You're physically capable. Why the hell would I open your door?
Your own damn door, woman.
Your own damn door, right?
Come open my door, as a matter of fact.
No, if I had said that and responded that way, we probably wouldn't be here. We wouldn't have written this book. We wouldn't be talking to you because we wouldn't have been a match, right?
Because he wouldn't have wanted to do something that would please me.
Right.
Now, the funny thing was, a couple of years after I got into the habit of opening a car door, I grew up in Missouri, and we're back in Missouri visiting my family, and I go to open my sister-in-law's car door, and she's like, I can get my own damn door.
Oh, she cursed him out, slapped his hand.
Pushed me away.
I'm standing behind
And I turned to Orna, and I'm like,
That's
why
I didn't want to touch your door.
I am stifling laughter. I am like behind him going, like, I couldn't believe how mad she got. And he was like, now you know. Like when we finally were alone, he's like, now you know.
That's what I was afraid of.
It was so funny. But I mean, when I said whatever, I feel cherished or whatever it was, I inspired him to do something that I would like to have because it made me feel I like it.
Yeah, you like it. Yeah, it just felt yummy. And I think too, you made a really important point about building the habit and also your part in helping build the habit, because something that I had to realize like through myself before I could extend that compassion to others was there's never a destination point where you're going to be getting it all right all the time. And as dumb as that sounds, it took a really long time. I'm talking, this was something last week that I was like, sometimes you're going to be a bitch still. Just your best efforts, you're going to be a bitch. Get over it.
I am a recovering perfectionist. I hear you.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. I grew up in a family where the stakes were really high because if those grown-ups were upset, there were severe consequences.
Right.
I grew up on pins and needles and walking on eggshells, wanting to make sure they were happy, which I could never live up to that.
Right.
Matthew grew up in a family where there were hardly any consequences. So the thing is
so I don't have that fear of
hypervigilance. And
not at all.
Yeah.
And at some point we were in a little bit of a fight cycle and
in a power struggle. That's normal.
Right.
Most people like to ditch the relationship at that point. They go, oh my God.
Right.
I gotta get out of here.
Yes.
We're also conflict avoidant. By the way, that's one of the things in the book is how to turn conflict into a deeper connection, because you're going to have conflict even in your beloved relationship. Okay. Yes. Please continue.
So, well, actually, this is your story. I'm going to pass it to you because you tell it better.
Oh,
well, about the realization you had.
Oh, right. So, okay. Matthew's mom passed in 2014, and I did not have a nurturing mom, but Matthew's mom was like the epitome of motherhood. Like, she was super nurturing of her family. She was happiest with her family around, and we were both, it was like a tragic loss, to lose her. And so, she passed, and then my soulmate Kitty very quickly, a few months later, crossed the Rainbow Bridge, and we just had so much loss. And when you are under stress and duress, it is normal. It is natural. Every human being under stress will revert to old strategies. It's just, we will do it. Right. And so here we are, we're known in our industry as the pattern identifiers and breakers, and we knew the pattern, and we ended up with just under all that loss and stress. We got in this little power struggle again, and we knew the stupid fight cycle. And it's not like we were fighting every day, but it was just like, there it is again. Whoop, there it is.
Right.
And we started playing around with it. Like, I remember once, like mid-argument, like I looked at Matthew and I said, look, I know your lines and you know my lines. So let's switch and see what we figure out, you know? And so we just started playing around with it. Or I remember once Matthew was like, I don't care if we have this fight every day for the rest of our lives. And again, we weren't fighting every day. But he's like, I'm not going anywhere. We're going to figure this out. And like, I knew we were going to figure it out. But I didn't realize that it was my bullshit.
Yeah.
Because
it's usually my bullshit too.
I was always logging all of the things that he preferred, right?
Yeah.
Again, we already talked about the importance of knowing the difference between what you want and need. I thought every one of Matthew's preferences as a need because of my crazy childhood.
Yeah.
So I had this long list of things that I thought were important to him that I had to deliver, or there could be severe consequences in my subconscious.
Yeah, I get it.
Reality. So I realized I can't raise his, like, I mean, literally came from this, like, well, what would it take for him to just have a little bit more consideration, right? Because I have this high level of consideration. And suddenly I realized, oh my God, if for him to be any different, from my beloved Matthew to be any different, he would have had to grow up in the crazy childhood that I had. I wouldn't wish that on my worst enemy, much less my beloved husband. I was like, oh, this is mine. This is mine that I need to change. And I realized that when he's sitting in front of the TV at the end of the day, he's completely relaxed. And that was not something that I was like, actually completely relaxed. And I was like, what if I lowered my hypervigilance because I don't live in a crazy house anymore? And suddenly I looked at him and I said, you know what? You know, all those things that have been upsetting me and I've been asking you, like, could you, you know, and he's like, yeah. And I go, let me tell you something. I have this long list of things that I think are so important to you that I need to deliver. And what I'm realizing is I don't need to do that. So, you know, that long list of things you've asked me to do over time, I'm going to start fucking those up. I'm going to start making some mistakes. And he was like, okay, sure, whatever. Right. And I relaxed. I made a point of it.
Yes, see, this was all subconscious for me too.
I want you to understand this really important tipping point, because then I screwed something up and he got really mad. And he's like,
Matthew,
I told you, blah, 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 blah. And suddenly it was for real, me saying his lines and him saying mine. Because suddenly he's really mad. Like, I told you, blah, 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 and I blah, 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 blah. And I looked at him and I said, I know, honey, I made a mistake. I screwed up. And he goes, like, I can see neurons in his brain, like literally going, whoa, what is going on? Is it? And so sometimes we have opposite day. And we're like, oh my gosh, it's opposite day. I just did the thing he usually does.
Yes.
And it's funny. And so when the way out of that fight cycle was for me to realize I could do less.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I totally get that, because, okay, so we have the exact same shoe shit here, okay? But it's like also 3 children, 2 of which are fucking grown and need to get their shit together. So anyway, I had to get to a place very literally where I was like, I guess I don't fucking care if the foyer is full of shoes, because I'm not picking them up. Like, I'm not cleaning anybody's shoes up anymore, because that's what I was doing. I was martyring myself a bunch, doing a lot of tasks, because that's what made me feel safe in my environment, was like order.
Oh yeah, I got
it. Exactly. And so I've just order in my environment, but also because of childhood, I have kind of a deep-seated fear that some authority is going to show up and see my house and take my children, even though it's never been that bad. But like, I felt like I had to have a show home ready house at all times. So I was so upset all the time, because I'm like, how can you not fucking understand how much of a need this is for me? Clean your fucking mess up. And then I was like, or we could make this less of a need for me. And so I've been working really hard on that. There are days where I'm like, fuck everyone in this house because you're all disgusting. But through the work, I've realized I'm just as messy as they are. And that's actually where my shame lies, is that I'm not perfect and that I can't be perfect and that I can't, when I do get that burst of energy, get everything done, deep cleaned in an hour by myself. I actually hate asking for help ever. So like, it puts me in a position to have to go, guys, let's rally together, to do this together, because then I have to rely on someone and I don't like that either. So all of like literally my house being clean has helped me process so much like through that. I mean, my house is never clean, let's be clear. But I care a lot less. I care so much less now. And there are days, like I said, that it'll come up and I'm a bitch about it. And then I have to be like, I'm sorry. I was having a really overwhelming day. And I guess that one was just the clutter in the kitchen just got me. I'm so sorry. But I think that's where I'm able to offer that compassion and grace for him now too, is because I can give it to myself, because I wasn't able to. In some areas it's an evolution. I'm still finding areas where I wasn't giving myself grace,
Yeah.
A relationship, we always say it this way, a relationship is a funhouse mirror. And what you don't realize is that the person you're looking at is a reflection of you. You just don't recognize them because it's distorted and it looks like something else. But it's your shit that you're projecting onto them.
Yes.
So Orna mentioned my mom and what a lovely person she was. But my mom had this thing where, and I know you're in the Midwest, right? And
Oklahoma. Mm-hmm.
Yep. And so you never asked my mom how she was doing. She had one answer and one answer only. I'm fine.
Yep.
Oh, I'm fine. I'm fine. Everything's fine. Oh, I'm fine. I remember once we were visiting over Christmas and I had the flu and I was just miserable. My mom had the same flu and she's cooking for everybody.
Oh my God.
Taking care of everything.
She did everything.
She did everything and she's fine.
She never complained.
I was miserable. I how do you even get out of bed?
You're like, no, I'm not fine. Mm-mm.
I'm fine.
Matthew's like, just bring the soup downstairs.
So for me, it's like conflict is really uncomfortable.
Yeah.
I remember once we went back and Orna bought some jeans because she needed some new jeans. And when she got
went
home,
shopping at like, it was like one of those like TJ Maxx. Or you know what I mean? Like I just needed something that we were going to Matthew's brother's like on the farm, like literally out in Kansas. And I was like, I don't have anything that I don't care about because we get really dirty when we're there.
Yeah.
And so I went shopping. Oh, you want me to take over?
No, the jeans still had, I don't know how she got out of the store, but it still had that thing.
The theft thing.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
And
the theft
which you can't take off by yourself.
Oh, yeah.
Right? You maybe you need power tools. I don't know.
They are literally in the middle of nowhere.
So it's a 45-minute drive to go back to the store and back, right?
Oh.
And so Orna calls up the store. And my wife is very passionate. And when, something is important to her,
I asked for the manager.
She asked for the manager and she let them know what an issue this was and how much of a problem it was. My parents were in the room while she was making it. They were so uncomfortable.
Yes.
They were like
sitting on.
Can't believe
like, oh my God, this is so much conflict.
Are like, well, just come back and we'll take it off. And I'm like, okay, that's 45 minutes one way. So how am I I'll never get that time back. And they're like, so what would you like? And I said, well, I think you should give me a discount on the cost that you need to refund me. You need to give me a partial refund for this inconvenience. I knew exactly
Your parents are just dying the whole time. Oh my God, I love this.
Fast forward in our relationship. So my wife is like that. She's asking for refund. She's talking to the manager. She's getting things fixed. And I'm like, why are you? And at some point I realized, because I kept trying to control her. I'm like, can you, honey, I don't think you need to, it's not that big a deal. It's okay. I mean, really, I don't know why we're making a problem.
It's fine. Mm-hmm.
And I finally realized that's my problem.
Mm-hmm.
The discomfort I feel because she is asking for what she wants and needs is mine.
Yeah.
And I can stop trying to control how she is so that I feel better. And that's what we do in relationship. I mean, control is one of the most insidious things in a relationship when you try to control somebody else so that you feel better.
Right.
And that's the key. You got to own that. The discomfort is yours.
Yes.
It's not their responsibility. The discomfort's your responsibility. And so I get better at managing my discomfort, and we get upgrades at hotels because they gave us a shitty room, right?
Yeah, and you let your wife be your wife. Yeah.
I let my wife be my wife,
and we get upgraded to first class.
And I get a free massage because
fucking love it.
Screwed something up.
Right? I got to get a little more like Orna over here. I'm a mix between the internally, totally you, but I have some internal you too. But externally, I'm like, we need to be fine and static. Okay, we don't need to make waves around here.
Yeah, for
that horrible phrase, don't rock the boat, right?
Yes.
Boats need to be rocked.
Rock the damn thing.
Rocking. And the thing is like, I'll always start off nice. I remember once Matthew really lost it. Like, I have a severe bell pepper allergy, and we were staying in one of the really fancy places in Vegas, and we were doing a media training. And, it was one of these things where it was the day we were going to be on camera. And so we because we almost never do room service. So the food isn't as good. It's not as warm, whatever, And so the room service gets delivered, and literally I had an omelet that was supposed to be like tomato, basil and mushroom or something like that. There's no tomato. Instead of tomatoes, there's bell peppers, and he caught it so that I didn't eat it. But when he called, they kept insisting, because the ticket did say tomatoes. They're like, no, sir, those are tomatoes. He's like, your chef needs new eyes and a new nose. Like, he just like lit into
these are not tomatoes.
And it was the opposite day, because he was like really pissed. I'm still like I'm still in the bathroom. Like,
were you uncomfortable with it, or were you like, hell yeah?
Oh, no, I was definitely the latter. I was like,
okay.
I came out, and he was like, your omelet was, I just happened to look, and I was like, that's not a tomato. And he looked, he like lifted it.
Yeah.
With oh my God. It was all, instead of tomatoes, it was bell peppers. And I'm like deathly allergic to bell peppers. And so he literally took care of it. And he was so, and I was proud of him. I was like, oh my gosh. Because the day, like, we spent all this money on media training, and then the day we're on camera with producers, like, can you imagine if I had to rush off to the emergency room? Like, we both
sucked. That would have sucked.
It's not something you can reschedule, you know what I mean? Part of the group training or whatever. Is so I just find that I don't have to make it a big deal if the other person is like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. Like,
if they're gonna,
if they're like, oh my gosh,
if they're like being authentic and being kind,
right. And they're like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry, blah blah blah. Like, sometimes you can find that the room really wasn't clean that well, and it's like,
right,
creepy to me. You know what I mean? I'm not gonna stand like, what else wasn't clean then? Like, glass or whatever. I'm like,
Absolutely.
What's on that bedspread?
What's on that bedspread? Yeah, exactly. We've all seen that.
Mm-hmm.
So, this idea that you're not going to have conflict with somebody just dooms so many great relationships.
Yeah.
Because there is a way to turn conflict into a deeper connection. And that way, people get obsessed with how things feel in that early romance stage of relationship.
Right, when you're flooded with dopamine and adrenaline.
Exactly. Dopamine, oxytocin,
all the things.
And especially during sex. Like, we, as women, when we orgasm, we're bonded to that. We are chemically bonded.
That's it. You're mine forever. Thank you.
Right. Like Paradise by the Dashboard Light.
Yeah, because you throw in a little religious trauma too, and there's nothing casual about it.
Absolutely.
Right, exactly.
And so when we have to realize that there's this unrealistic expectation that the right person, right? It goes back to that myth, that ridiculous myth of love by accident, that somehow that love is going to come with intuitive mind reading powers. And nobody knows what it is that you prefer or what you would like. And it doesn't mean that there aren't, those bumps in the road. That early romance phase is the promise of what can be if the couple can make it through that power struggle stage.
They
get all the way through. And so, because I think about our romance phase, and it was, oh my God, it felt magical, and I have wonderful memories about it. But to be frank, it's kind of shallow. It's
you'd much rather have the connection you have now, where you feel like.
So much together. It's like there's so much like depth and breadth to the love that we share that's between us, because we have worked through all of these things. And we have an agreement that we can talk about anything, but we don't have to talk about everything. And I think that's a big mistake that women make. I would say, know how to best use your man. You know,
Yep. You can't go to them for every little thing and expect a great conversation, bro.
I'm going to call a girlfriend if I have to just be, you know what I mean?
Yes, that's such a valuable lesson.
Call your girlfriend.
No human's gonna sit and listen to you fucking nitpick their every being, like, and I thought, because I would have that triggered stream of consciousness that's just coming out of my mouth straight from my brain, half of it just in my subconscious, and I don't even know what I'm saying because I'm in the red, and then be like, because my husband will disassociate so quick. He's like, he's off in the cloud. So I'll be like, you're not even listening. And now I'm like, I'm so glad you weren't listening. I was being such a bitch for no reason.
Because his brain is like, what do I do with all this information? What do I do with all this
Yeah,
information?
he's like, I got to shut down.
How do I fix it? I can't fix it. And then he's like overwhelmed, and then he's done.
Then he's gone.
We say, wait, men, the fuel a man runs on in relationship is acknowledgement and appreciation.
Yes.
Acknowledgement and appreciation. Even when I do the stupid things, I get out the ladder and I fix something. When it's like, oh, thanks, you're my hero. I so appreciate that. And even though I know what she's doing, it still feels good.
It still feels good. Yeah.
I'm still like, oh yeah, I am the man, right?
I'm not bullshitting. It's
No, I
genuine.
know you're not bullshitting.
But you have to be genuine, right?
You have to, but just because you're being intentional with it doesn't mean that it's not genuine, right?
And he feels good when I get. And women get stuck on reciprocation because that's how us women do things. Matthew's always laughing at the thank you card for the thank you card. He's like, when does it end?
Oh my God, I fucking hate thank you cards. Yeah.
But I mean, it's like I walked up to an elevator the other day and these two women, clearly know, oh gosh, those shoes are fabulous. Oh, and I love your hat. We just automatically just, men don't work that way.
Yeah.
When we were planning our wedding, like about 3 weeks out or so, we ended up meeting up with Matthew's friend, who was the best man, John, and his wife, Kathleen. They're good friends of ours. And, the guys were walking ahead or whatever. And Kathleen's like, how's the wedding planning going? I'm like, oh my God, I was going to kill him yesterday. He hadn't done anything. And she goes, what? What do you mean he hadn't done anything? The wedding's 3 weeks away. And I go, I know. Like, I've been working my ass off getting all this stuff done. And I'm like, honey, have you done that? No. Honey, hey, can I get an update on? No. And I was like, she goes, what did you do? And I said, oh, I tore out all the pages in my book about the rehearsal dinner his parents were paying for. And I go, great. You know what? Here's more to do. Here's the rehearsal dinner your folks are paying for. You can take that off my to-do list. And suddenly he's like, oh shit, I got stuff to do. I better get to work.
Yes. I have a client that I'm about to run late for, so I'm so sorry. I'll have to rush you off. But is there any last minute stuff? And obviously I'll include all of your links and everything in the show notes, but any last minute, anything you want to say?
I just want to say ultimately the message is that all of us are worth loving. That there's nothing you've done, there's no story you have about your past that makes you an exception. Love is available to everyone. And it really is that journey of self-love, self-acceptance so that we can receive it.
Absolutely.
And the journey is step by step right here in the book.
I'm excited about this. I really am. I love that. Thank you guys so much for coming on. This was great. I'm excited for people to hear this.
Well, thank you. Thank you
All
so
right. Have a fabulous Friday.
You too. Have a great weekend too. Bye for now.
Bye-bye. Happy St. Patrick's Day soon. I don't know when. Bye.
Bye.
Emotionally unavailable.
Hey, if you have not provided this podcast with a rating, please go do that now. If you find me on social media, you can see my link tree and it will take you to both Spotify or Apple for you to leave a review and a rating. 5-star, obviously, so much. Okay. Also, on that link tree, you can get to my website, empoweredwithmelissahepner.org, where you can sign up for a one-on-one session with me. I'm calling these guidance sessions because I will utilize my therapeutic background along with tarot and astrological insights, if you're comfy, and guide you to the life that you're in love with. And if none of my current offers are within your budget, please don't hesitate to select the complimentary session option. Created that option as part of a commitment to my community and to mental health care, and to make sure that people are using that. So refer that link out to anyone that you want to. It is a one-time only. All of these sessions are like a one-time so that I can make bigger impact one-time sessions versus recurring sessions. So you can see my menu on my website, and you will also see workbooks and membership communities available. So I hope you'll check it out. All right, that's it from me. So make sure that you check out the show notes for links. And until next time, let's all just keep swimming.
Emotionally unavailable.
INDEPE and cut.